I recently noticed a comment on one of my videos where someone said they were looking forward to hearing my thoughts on my RSD Mayor as a trail bike. At first I thought, well, I have a whole video review on it, so I should send them the link. But as I went to find that video, I realized something. I never gave a full review of what has been my primary bike for the last year. I have no idea how I forgot to do such an obvious review, but it's time I fix that. In this video, I'll do a quick overview of my setup for both winter and summer, and then talk about the things I like and dislike about this bike. I haven't changed a whole lot since my initial build on this bike, with two notable exceptions: the bars and the suspension fork. It's still running an 11-speed Shimano XT drivetrain with a 28-tooth chainring, has a 150mm PNW Rainier dropper post, and some race face cranks. I started out with some Salsa Rustler bars, but quickly found I wanted more rise, so I swapped those out for some 50/50 bars with 35mm of rise. The other major change is the suspension fork. I was originally using a RockShox Bluto RCT3, but Ren sent me their 110mm travel fork to review, and it's such an improvement over the Bluto I haven't taken it off. It's a much more supple ride, and it's been really reliable so far. I have a whole video on that fork though, so you can check that out if you want to know more. When it comes to the wheels and tires, I'm running 29x3" Bontrager XR2s, or Chupacabras, whatever you want to call those, on some 45mm wide rims. If you've never seen or ridden a 29 Plus setup, I would highly recommend it. They roll over everything, there's tons of traction, and it's just an overall really fun setup. I have this wheel set for late spring into the fall when there's no snow riding to be done, and they make this into a really good year-round bike. When the snow falls though, I'm mostly riding groomed trails, so that's reflected in what my fat wheel set looks like. I'm using 27.5 by 4" Terrain cake eaters on 65mm Blizzard wheels. This has been perfect for packed and groomed trails and does decent enough in powder that I don't really have anything to complain about. Okay, so now let's jump into what I actually think about the bike. The main reason I bought this bike was because of its geometry. For a fat bike, a 67-degree head tube angle, 435 chainstays, and a 466mm reach is pretty aggressive and modern. Fat bikes are made mostly for riding in snow and loose conditions where you're not really riding up and down super steep stuff all the time. The mountain bike industry, on the other hand, is pushing things towards steeper and more technical stuff all the time, so bikes are getting slacker head tubes, longer wheelbases, things like that. These modern geometry trends don't actually translate super well to fat bikes, and often it'll actually make them do worse, not better, on the flatter, low traction trails of winter. Like many fat bike owners out there though, I don't only ride my fat bike in the winter. So to me it was important to find a bike with the most normal mountain bike geometry possible. What I found was that many fat bikes would have a couple of measurements just about right, but then one or two glaring issues I just couldn't get over. The Rocky Mountain Blizzard, for example, was another bike on my short list. A 66-degree head tube angle, 475mm reach, 74-degree seat tube angle, but then a whopping 455mm chainstay? No thank you. While that might work well in the snow, it's just way too long for what I like on the dirt. On paper, the Mayor V5 checked all the boxes for me with one small exception: the stack height. At 591mm on a large, it was way lower than I'd prefer. But, you know, that's what long steerer tubes and riser bars are for, right? It's slack enough to handle steep techie stuff in the summer, but not so slack that you fight with the front end at slow speeds in the snow. I'm able to run my chainstays almost all the way forward with the 29 Plus setup, which makes the bike feel more playful and easier to move around overall. If you're looking for a more stable ride in general, or maybe just for the winter, slide those dropouts back to 450 to change how the bike handles, and you'll also increase your tire clearance. Speaking of, the frame will fit a 26 by 5.05 or a 27.5 by 4.5, so you can get as much float as you need or want on this bike. I don't really have a need for such large tires, but I have noticed my 4" tire almost looks small with how much clearance there is left. I think it's a good looking bike overall though. The frame is no nonsense and I love that. It has a simple paint scheme, 2 bottle cages, external cable routing excluding the dropper post, and a reliable dropout system. I haven't had any issues with it either. Nothing has rattled loose, and even though mine isn't exactly painted, the clear coat has been really durable. In some ways, it kind of reminds me of my Surly ice cream truck that this bike replaced. It's pretty simple and just made to be ridden. Unlike the Surly though, this bike is relatively light for a fat bike, weighing in at just 32 pounds with pedals and a suspension fork. Weight wasn't even a big consideration in any of the parts I bought either, so I'm sure it could easily get under 30 pounds if I went with carbon cranks, a lighter cassette, and something other than a heavy $10 stem from Amazon. There are some lighter aluminum options out there, and even some with the ability to run single speed, but going back to what I was saying, the geometry was just too far off to justify the weight savings. So after a year of riding on everything from groomed snow, to buff single track, to awkward technical rock slabs, I feel like this bike has the perfect geometry for year-round riding. It rides predictably in the snow, confidently on steep descents, and comfortably on all-day rides. And to drive that point home even more, I actually sold my latest generation Salsa Timberjack because I liked riding this bike so much more. I've ridden a lot of fat bikes over the years, but the RSD has by far been my favorite as a year-round bike. So if you're looking for a fat bike that'll be a blast to ride no matter the trail surface or the time of year, the Mayor will get the job done. Let me know what you thought about this video down in the comments, and leave a like if you enjoyed it. If you're feeling especially grateful, YouTube has a new feature called Super Thanks that you can try with the little heart icon under the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.